Water crisis is one of the most alarming concerns for not just India but the countries across the world. Day Zero is going to be a reality soon. In 2018, Niti Aayog declared that the country is suffering from the worst water crisis in its history, and millions of lives and livelihoods are under threat. Almost 21 Indian cities are looming for Day Zero. In an exclusive interview with Silicon India, Ranganath N.K, Grundfos Water Ambassador, Grundfos India, speaks about this concern and how pump companies can play an important role in addressing this issue by integrating latest technology into the pumps.
Ranganath, you hold 36 years of experience in the industry. How has your experience been and your journey setting up Grundfos in India?
Yeah, 36 years have flown by so fast that I didn't realize it's 36 years. I've been in Grundfos now for 22 years. We set up Grundfos in 1998 when I joined Grundfos in a family business because I liked the way the company was set up because it was owned by a trust and there were no shareholders to pay except the objective was reinvestment, R&D, and social work. So I said a nice company, and I knew about pumps because my family was also in pumps. Joined them, and I think time has flown by so fast. It just looks like yesterday that I did join, and 22 years have gone by. It's been a great experience in terms of setting this up because it was an unknown brand. Nobody knew what Grundfos was in India. It was an expensive brand because it is still today by far the most expensive pump in the world market. And not because it wants to be expensive, but because whatever goes into it is of the highest quality. And it's perhaps the most reliable and most efficient pump available in the world. That is why it happens to also, Grundfos happens to be the largest pump company in the world. One of the largest or perhaps the largest. So basically, it's been a good journey of learning, of contributing, of changing the way the market is behaving, of learning from the way our market behaves. And it's been a wonderful journey with its little ups and downs, of course, but predominantly it's been up all the way. And that is the proof of the pudding is that over the last 20 years, since we started commercial operations till the end of 2019, that's 20 years, 2020 is early now, we've had a compounded annual growth rate of around 27%. And that's the best way to really sort of look at it and feel the satisfaction about what we have done. Today, Grundfos is a well-known brand from an unknown brand, at least amongst the top companies of every segment that you can think of, or even every area. The very top people, wherever you go, have a Grundfos pump either at home or in their offices or factories. And that gives you a sense of satisfaction to a great extent. The other thing that corroborates that is that our repeat orders are almost 85%. People who have bought Grundfos, 85% of them keep buying Grundfos. And that again is a testimony of what the product is all about.
What was the vision for your company when you joined?
See, when we did set it up, we were looking at what we should be. The one thing that we decided is that we do not want to be the biggest company in India, although we are the biggest in the world, but we wanted to be the most respected and the most innovative company in India, not just for our products, but also for the way we dealt with the market. So that was what the vision was all about. And according to that vision, we set up all our strategies. Basically, what we did, we said that if we have to sort of survive and do well, we have to value add to all our stakeholders, not just our users, not just our own people, our employees, not just our shareholders, but also to all our distributors and dealers. So one of the KPIs that we set ourselves is the increase in net worth of our dealers and distributors would be one of the parameters for success for Grundfos in India. And everything that we did, we had a purpose statement which clearly said that we would promote conservation of power and water, and that we would co-create solutions with our customers and end users towards saving them both water and energy. And every step of the way, this is what we've been doing. Yes, today we are not the biggest company in terms of turnover, But in terms of brand equity, in terms of respect and reliability, I think we are the biggest in India too. And that's the vision with which we started, and that's the vision with which we have moved all these years. And hopefully it will continue to do so.
How has the industry evolved over the years?
It was very fragmented. It was like a cottage industry. It was reserved for the small scale sector. There was no R&D. There was a bit of copying, and the pumps were actually not reliable, not efficient. One of the most inefficient pumps that were sold in the world over in India, even today, quite a bit is in some segments like agriculture. But our coming in, even though at that point of time we were 300% more expensive than the Indian market, today we probably are about 30% more. Even then, the way the Indian market took to us was amazing. Only on two issues. One was the reliability, and the second was the efficiency. And they found that industry could invest even 300% more and make up the money in less than 15 months or 18 months because they saved on power. So that was how it started. And that's how we moved about. And the industry then suddenly started waking up. We introduced pumps that were never seen in the Indian market. For instance, what we could then call the CH multi-stage small domestic pump, or what we call the hydropneumatic booster as you see it today. We introduced those pumps. We introduced adaptive technology. We introduced solar-driven pumps. We introduced pumps with integrated electronics on it. We were the first in to do all that. And slowly the Indian market also picked it up, and the level of aesthetics, the quality levels, and the reliability levels of the Indian industry also went up. Of course, many of them copied our pumps, and that's the unfortunate situation of being a leader. But then we said, okay, fine, at least the nation benefits from this. So these copies are there today, but the more the copies that come, the better we are doing, because there's still then a platform where people can compare like to like and yet see something better. So that has been a huge change. Nobody thought of aesthetics in a pump industry. Nobody thought of branding pumps before we came in. I think we were the first company to do that, and they have a lot of followers now. And good, they have a lot of followers. In fact, they follow us so much that they even take our taglines. Sometimes they use the same words. So we were the ones first to speak about life cycle cost of ownership, sustainability.
The journey of the Jal Yukta Shivar project, incorporated by ex-Chief Minister of Maharashtra, Devendra Fadnavis in 2015, made 19,665 out of 20,000 villages drought-free. How do you see this milestone, and how can companies like Grundfos help in mitigating the water crisis in India?
Nobody can deny that this is a good move, irrespective of your political leanings. Anybody who does work on the water space has to be welcome. And not that the previous government before Mr. Fadnavis was not focused, but then they didn't have a clear idea of where they should do what. But Mr. Fadnavis, when he came in, he was very specific. And if we do not do this, India will become water-starved, and Maharashtra and Tamil Nadu being two states which are anyway find water stress year on year. It is very, very important that such initiatives are encouraged, and also we should work along, industry should work along with them. But there are many stakeholders to water, not just industry. There's the agriculturist, there is our people, and then there is also, I would say, even the animals, because they also need water. All of us are stakeholders, including the government. And it's a joint effort, because one needs to look at water holistically. It's not the job of the government to sort of do that, although people think it's the job of the government to provide water, and we will do whatever we please with water. And that's not done. Yes, it's the job of the government to provide the infrastructure. It's up to the people and the industries who use water to use it responsibly. And that's important. So industries like us or anybody, first, inside our own fence, can make sure that we consume the minimum quantum of water that is required. And we can also make sure that we use water multiple times, that we don't throw away water after one use. We recycle, we reuse, other than just making sure that we don't use too much. That's the first step. Outside our fence, we can work with the government, we can work with the public, we can work with the villages where we have knowledge to work with them to ensure the right practices come out when doing agriculture. Because in India, we consume too much water and produce too little food compared to even some of the other developing nations. So how do we actually take this knowledge down to all the farmers? That's one. Then working with the farmers to ensure that their specific consumption of water per kilogram of output of food is lowered. The other thing is to not to use too much what you call pesticides and fertilizers, which then leaches into other water bodies and pollutes them. These are all the various issues. But the most important issue is the restoration of water bodies. Because if you do not restore water bodies, and if you do not store surface water in either man-made tanks or natural tanks and ponds, you will never have groundwater. Because once you have water on the surface, you are sure that the groundwater is also recharged. So it's very vital for the economy, for the food security, and for the energy security of any, and industrial security for any state or city or region to be self-sufficient in water and use the water well. So this is how Grundfos or any other industry can play. Use the knowledge that they have. And there are many industries that are doing it. Mind you, industry only consumes about 9% of India's potable water. So, and they are the ones who pay for it. The others don't pay much for water. So when you're paying for water when there's no water, so there is a business case that industry builds that we have to save the water, and we try our best to sort of consume lesser and lesser water and also conserve whatever water we do. In Grundfos itself, since we're in Chennai, we have air conditioners. All air conditioners have condensate. Actually, we collect condensate from every air conditioner and recycle that water too. You have to do everything that you can to ensure that we use this resource responsibly.
Union Finance Minister Nirmala Sitharaman in her second budget speech announced about the comprehensive measures to address shortage in 100 water-stressed districts as a part of 16-point action plan for the agriculture sector. What are your thoughts on the government's actions on curbing the water and climate challenges in India?
Actually, this is a great move. It should have come earlier, but better late than never. Unfortunately, at the ground level, when I say ground level, I'm talking of the states and at the corporators level or the municipalities level or the panchayat level, water has not yet become a vote issue. Very strangely, water being one of the sources for life to live, we still don't think it as an vote issue. In some places, people do protest if there's no water, but generally, if you go ask a person, would you vote if they don't give you freebies, or would they vote if you don't give you water? Normally, it'll be the freebies. Okay, if they don't give us, we won't vote for them. That's very unfortunate. But I'm glad Mr. Sitharaman has brought this out and the government in the center has brought this out. Intentions are very good. We have to see how much budget they put in. They have an overall budget there. It will change the way India is looked at, and will change our water footprint considerably. If there is an if always and a but, implemented well. My only issue is that the intentions are good, the plans are good, the budget allocations are there, but most of the time we leave the implementation to the same set of people who are the old people at the village level or the municipality level, and that has to change. If that changes, and if they bring in professionalism and ensure that they are able to monitor directly to see what the impact it has created on the ground and how we implement in time. Because implementation, when it comes to the government, a one-year implementation can run to 5 years and then nobody to question. There's no accountability. And that accountability, if they bring in, saying you have to do this within this time, the same accountability the government expects when it is given to a private industry. If you're delayed, you get a penalty on it. You don't get paid extra. So if that accountability comes in, and I'm sure this will be a huge game changer in the next 4 or 5 years for India and its people too.
Please brief us about the present trends in the water pump industry and how do you see its growth in the upcoming years?
See, pumps always grow. When there's no water, you need pumps. When there's too much water, you need pumps, because a pump is like your heart. If it stops, you die. So the base demand will always be there. And the question is, it will probably the demand will vary with the way the environment, or with the way the economic environment varies, or the economic situation varies. There could be ups and downs in specific segments. Agriculture may be up and down once, industry may be up and down. So depending on where it is, there'll be a slight variation, but the demand will never disappear. Now, having said that, what we need for India is efficient pumps. We need to save on energy. We need to ensure that our efficiencies are high. For example, in most of the agricultural pumps, where power is given almost free or totally free, the efficiencies used to range from 17 to 22% of the standard pump that the agriculturist uses, because he doesn't pay for the electricity and he buys the cheapest pump. Now, is that good for the nation? No, it's terrible, because the electricity utility companies are paying for it. If they are getting compensated in some states by the state, fine. In some states, they don't even get compensated, which means the utilities are always in red, and there is profligate use of power and water. Now, what the government has moved into making sure that most of these are converted to solar, getting them off grid. That itself is a great move. You get a farmer off grid, you save that power, and that power can be sold to industry, and the utilities then can become a little more profitable, or they have a little less loss, because you still have people in which they have to give free, at least the lower sections of society. So this cross subsidization for agriculture and the society at large actually increases the price which the industry pays, and makes them unviable or uncompetitive compared to countries like China. So we need to make those changes also. So this way, I think the solar move is pretty good. And now what they have done with solar, they've also integrated electronics, they've integrated remote management. So they're collecting data as to where the pump is, how much water is being consumed, how much power is being generated. And that is another move in the pump industry, where the pump by itself has not changed. But what is changing with the pump is basically the tolerances, so that you improve the efficiencies. What is changing is material of construction, so that you have more recyclable material. But what is really leaping forward is embedded intelligence and electronics, like it is in any part of our lives. The computers and the chips have invaded everything. Very soon you'll have even people with chips embedded. But before we come to that, now the pumps are getting embedded with chips, and they're getting more and more intelligent. They're able to talk to each other and behave in such a way that we call it adaptive technology, and behave in such a way that they always are working at the best efficiency point, irrespective of the load on these pumps, because the loads vary. At times you need more water, at times you need less water. Like for instance, at home, we probably need more water before everybody goes to work, and then everybody comes back from work. In between, you don't need so much water. That's a simple example. It's like that with a mall. It's like that with offices. So how do we go about? And these pumps start learning these behaviors and adapting themselves. So this is another thing that is coming through. The other one, because of embedded electronics, we are able to actually look at predictive analysis of failures. When you do that, your downtime in industry comes down considerably. When the downtime comes down, your profitability goes up, your losses come down, your profitability goes up. So this is another thing that is where you can sit in one part of the world and monitor every pump that is under your control and predict, okay, this is going to happen now, so let me go do what you call a preventive maintenance check. And I don't need to do anything. Earlier, preventive maintenance was based on a certain time. Now, the feedback is given like we have in today's cars. The car tells you exactly, at least the high-end ones, when you have to change your brake lining, when you have to change your oil. It gives you a warning, and it is never a constant number of kilometers these days, like in the past. So that's happening to the pump industry too. The other thing that is important, the motor technology is changing. There are more and more permanent magnet motors, which are more efficient than the normal motors. But every technology leap also has certain, what you call, negative points around it. When it comes to motors, we are dependent only on one country, and anything happens to that country, will have a problem. So people are trying to discover more and more things. But in a nutshell, It's more intelligence that is being built into pumps to ensure that the life cycle cost of the cost of ownership reduces.
Any suggestions to create more perfect pumps for India that consume minimal energy and promote the sustainable future of the country?
What we need in India is a minimum standard and efficiency norm below which you should not produce. When you have this standard, everybody produces to a certain minimum quality because the increase in volume, the pumps become more affordable. Now we have pumps which are so cheap that their cost is that their selling price is lower than the material cost of the good pumps. So there is no push unless until the customer is very knowledgeable to go and buy something which actually saves him or her power. For one simple reason, if you take a life cycle of a pump, let us say 10 years, only about 10% is its initial cost, 80% is its power cost. So people don't realize that paying a little more, they will save on power for the rest of their lives and the overall cost is lower. That knowledge is slowly seeping through with industry, with the large buildings, and also with some end users, customers, individual customers. So we need to have this minimum standard because in India, if you don't put a standard, people can do whatever they want just to cut corners. That has to stop. Once that is stopped, you will see that the general overall quality levels will go up. See, the BEE was a good move. It came up when it started for agriculture pumps. It did for air conditioners. It did for bulbs. And look at the move that has been. Everybody's gone into from. I mean, 10 years ago you couldn't get a LED bulb. You could get perhaps a CFL, but everybody was still using the non-standard bulbs. But today, you can't get a standard bulb. It's all LEDs at a price which is affordable. Why? Because there was certain norms that were set and said this is what we need to do. Air conditioners today, you have 3, 4-star, 5-star. They are far more efficient than the air conditioners we had 15 years ago. The pump just started, but we should do more and more to ensure that we get to a stage where we have these minimum norms. So like for instance, all motors should be minimum IE3, high efficiency motors. The rest should not be allowed. And that would mean a lot of savings for the nation and also for the users. And it also means bringing down of prices because the volumes will increase of that particular motor or that particular pump. The prices will drop. Affordability is vital for India. It's one of the factors that will help India. And we should be keeping that in mind with whatever we do.